teacher. Andrew told me, but I didn't believe him at first. He's the Messiah. I know it sounds impossible, but I saw it with my own eyes. He made boatfuls of fish appear out of nowhere. And the words he spoke, the one John told Andrew was the Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world, it was him. And then he called me to follow him. And Andrew, James, and John to go where he goes and to learn from him. And he said that I wouldn't be a fisherman anymore, but that I would catch people instead. I don't even know what that means, but I'm sure what I saw. He's the one we've been waiting for all our lives, and I want to quit fishing and leave the sea behind to go. I know it makes no sense, and I knew it would make you upset. All I can tell you is that this is...
Upset. Oh, why would I be upset? Come here. Come here. Come here. This is the man I married.
And you believe me?
You couldn't make this up. Of course he chose you.
I don't know why he did. I tried to tell him I'm a sinful man.
Everyone is sinful.
I don't know what this means. I don't know yet how I'm going to provide.
I don't care about that.
Then why are you crying?
Because someone finally sees in you what I have always seen. You're more than a fisherman.
You know, I will travel sometimes. I don't want you to feel abandoned.
You have to go with him. How could I feel abandoned? I feel saved.
Eden, it's not gonna be easy.
When have we ever had anything easy? It's not our people's way. So, are you going to help me?
I actually could watch you do that all day.
Wash your feet.
I'm so excited. We have the coolest guest today. My palms are a little bit sweaty, I'm not going to lie.
They are, really?
Yes,
Okay.
she's so cool. Her name is Lara Covino, and she is on The Chosen. She's Peter's wife, Eden. We were just talking about this amazing part that she just is so emotional and raw, and how she played that part so well. I mean, this is the coolest interview.
And The Chosen is an incredible show.
If you have not watched
Yeah.
The Chosen, if you are slightly tainted or whatever by like past Christian-y type of shows or films, because sometimes they aren't all that
Like sometimes
great.
faith-based shows aren't to the highest quality.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
knew you'd say that much more nicer than
Yeah.
I would, because I would just be like, they're dumb. You're better than me. But yeah, this is not like that. This is very, very like emotional and
Just
heartwarming and real and
well written, well acted.
Yes.
And just
It-
everything is
Zero
top
cheese,
value.
zero cheese factor.
Right. Yeah.
Zero cheese factor in this. And so you've got it right. And I think one of the only ways you can watch it is on the app, right?
Yeah. That you can get it totally free on the app, the
Mhm.
Chosen app.
Yeah, you
That's
just download the
yeah.
app, because you watch everything on your phone anyways. So you might as well just get this app and watch this.
Because I know season 1 is on Prime for free, but then when you get to season 2, you have to start renting them.
Oh, okay.
And it's on YouTube, but you also have to pay on YouTube.
Oh,
But if you
really?
if you get the app, it's
Just-
totally free.
Just get the app.
Yeah.
And then when you want to move the Netflix app away from the front page, put the Chosen app on the front page. When you have 10 extra minutes, you're going to want to watch this and you won't be able to stop. And the opening song is cool too.
Oh, I know.
I love it.
I even at some of my corporate events, I've heard this song.
Have you?
For openings.
It's
yeah.
so amazing. So please enjoy this interview with Lara Covino as much as we did. You are going to love her. All right, Lara, thank you so much for joining us today on Hardy Party 5 1/2. We're so glad to have you. The Chosen has my heart. I watch that show. I love it. Scott can't watch it without crying every time.
Every episode I cry.
Every
I
episode.
really do.
He's always
That's a great thing.
tearing up. It's such a good show. And so we want to know more about you though, specifically. Tell us how you got into acting.
So I got into acting a little bit later, I feel like, than most people did. I was just at a period where I didn't know what I really wanted to do. I was going to college for, I wanted to either be like a nurse or either go into like microbiology as well in college, because I was really good at all my sciences and loved the labs and all of that. But I just kind of felt really out of place and just not in a good headspace. And I also too, like it's interesting because I can't talk about how I found acting without talking about how I found God too, because it all connects, and I wouldn't have one without the other, if that makes sense. So yeah, at that time I just was feeling really depressed, and I feel like had I been seeking God and had I been confident, I think that I would have just maybe switched my major, but I just I stopped going to college, and it made me feel like even more of a failure and a quitter. And so then I just, started working and trying to make money because I needed to, pay my rent and everything. So I was bartending a lot, I was serving a lot. And then I just felt like I was missing something. And around the same time, I started to, I was dating a guy, he was Christian, and he started inviting me to church with him and his family. And it didn't all quite click until I realized that I was missing a calling as well. And like one of my friends had asked me, like, what were you doing the last time you felt truly happy? And I had to think back like to elementary school when I was like doing plays and dances and performances and, doing that. And that was a long time to kind of go through life with just thinking that that's like some kind of distant thing that I can't really, go for. And so she really encouraged me to like, just try it and go for it. I was 24 or 23 years old when I, got into my first acting class. And I just remember showing up, and like, it was a small little theater, and just feeling like this is where I belong. Like everything in me was like on fire. I felt like almost like a spiritual, like alignment, like like my soul, everything was like on fire. And then, from there, I kept going, and I kept learning and started learning about the business. And then you just kind of like find your way. There's no like, with acting, there's no like A, B, C leads you to D, but,
where were you living then? Where were you living when you went to that?
Yeah, I was living in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. It's where I grew up. And, I went to, a small theater in Davie, Florida.
Okay. Yeah. So where did you actually grow up?
I was in Fort Lauderdale. So I was born in Brazil.
Okay.
Yeah, I was born in Brazil. And then my mom, when I was around 3 years old, my mom left me in Brazil. Well, she didn't like leave me, but she left for a better life, right? So she was like hit with the American dream, and she moved to Miami, Florida. She got her visa, and I stayed with my grandma. And so in the 3 years that my mom was here in America, she just did what she could, like just wash dishes, like try to find work, and anywhere that she could. And she ended up meeting my dad, who I consider my dad. He raised me, but she met him in South Florida, and they fell in love. They got married. They had my brother, and then like having that established, like they were then able to come back and get me to bring me back to the States. And that's where I grew up with my brother's dad and my two sisters, and they have their moms. So it's a crazy family tree in itself. So,
but it works. It works. Yeah. And then, eventually you found your way to Atlanta eventually.
Yeah. I honestly was called to come here too. It was one of those things where I took a leap of faith. Around the same time, like I said, that I was continued to go to church. And it was then that like, I just knew, the guy that I was dating at the time, we didn't end up working out, but it's like God had a purpose in putting him and his family in my life at that time, because I really would have gone blindly without, and just like, who knows where I would be, honestly. And before I left, I just remember him asking me, he came to say his goodbyes, the guy I was dating at the time. And, you know, it was like that true moment of like surrender, because he asked me, he's like, you know, I know that we're not together, it's fine, but like, don't you want like God's help and guidance in all of this? Like, you're going to move to a place that you've never been to before, going after what seems an impossible dream. Like, why wouldn't you want that? You know, and even though I was going to church every Sunday, I'd never quite given my life and my heart and said the very special, you know, prayer that saves you. So, and I was like, yeah, it's like Jesus' spirit had me like lovingly pinned down. And I was like, yeah, you're right. I can't do this without him. You're right. Like, so that began like my journey of just finding my faith and, you know, finding my way through this crazy industry. And it's like God has really been just like helping me, and his hand has been all over my life since.
Wow.
So
when it's so cool that he used like an ex-boyfriend to get you to, you know what I mean?
I know.
And you wouldn't think it would happen that way.
You don't. Yeah. And I think that like, you know, at first I used to be kind of like, I felt weird kind of like sharing that part, but like a lot of girls or guys can, you know, young especially, they can relate to that, where like you date people that are, some are great for you, some are lessons, some are this or that, you know, they may not be the one, but there may be something there. You know? So, and it's not anything to be ashamed of.
Yeah.
So you mentioned the crazy industry, and I know you've done a lot of commercials. So what is like going into a commercial like, and is there like one or two that like, this is the craziest product I've ever heard of, or what am I doing here?
Right. Yeah. Oh my gosh. So yeah, commercials are fun, right? They're not like these in-depth characters that you have to like dig deep to find.
You don't need to know your motivation.
No, you're just like, let me memorize, let me improv, let me just be me, right? That's the best that you can do. And while still being relatable and everything. But I remember when I first started acting, for the most part, especially in South Florida, there was not much film and TV for me to audition for, especially starting out. So I kind of got my toes wet with commercial auditions. And that was so scary because they were all in person. And it just felt so weird because you needed to like create this scene, like, oh, pretend you're at a barbecue and you've got this guy over here, they're coming with floaties, and then they're like directing all this to you, and you're just like, but this is a room that's really scary, and it's like there's nothing here, and there's just like this camera there, and now I'm supposed to create all of this. So it took some practice, but one of the first things I booked was this crazy, do you remember when those like little trampolines that you used to work out?
Yes.
Like that
had the little bar.
Yeah. So that was like in 2014 or something like that, when they first kind of like started coming out with those. And I remember getting on set and we had to record me like on this thing. And I just was like, this is so weird. And like, you know, they want you to like, you know, smile like you're having such a good workout. And you're just like, I am not. This is so bad. But
there's nothing happening here.
Nothing happening yet. And then one of the weirdest products was I had to put on these like tight pair of like Spanx, but the Spanx had like a big padding on the booty. And like, honestly, you know, if you want to wear those, awesome. Great. More power to you guys. But like, it just was so funny to me that I had to put this on because it didn't match like, you know, the
rest of you,
the rest of me at all. So I was just like, wow. So this is how it's done.
Channeling your J-Lo.
Yes, it was such a good time.
That's so hilarious.
So now you're on The Chosen. And this is just a crazy show because it's like a grassroots show. It's like totally outside of Hollywood. And I read that there's been like 160 million hits online. Right. And then I looked at the app today and there's been like 275 million hits on the app.
And it just keeps counting.
Yeah, you can like when I was looking, it was counting up and I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So
cool.
I mean, it's just totally amazing. So how did you get involved with The Chosen? How was the audition process and all that?
So the audition process for me Honestly, the way I even found out about The Chosen, I think was a little bit different than most actors. So a lot of the times your agents or your managers find a project that you may fit in, and they will then submit you on it. And if they will, if the casting director wants you to read for it, they'll pick you, you get your sides, you read for it, on it goes. But for me, so it was honestly God putting my community together and trying connecting the dots for me. So I had a really small agent in Atlanta when I first moved, and they actually didn't know about The Chosen. They didn't submit me. It was also coming out of LA, and we're here in Atlanta, especially being a smaller agent, they're not going to really know about it.
Yeah.
But 3 years prior to The Chosen, I met a girl named Taylor Kalupa. She's now one of my best friends. And through mutual acting friends, we met up here in Atlanta. She was filming a faith-based show. And we met, we just connected, we clicked. I just admired her and her like career that she had going for herself. She was filming a feature film, like a faith-based one. I thought it was so cool. Plus she just like beamed light, like just wasn't ashamed of talking about her faith. And I was like, oh, I want in on that. She's so great. So we became really good friends. She moved back to LA and we still stayed in contact. And Taylor starts working at an office, casting office in LA for Beverly Holloway. And sure enough, that turns out to be the office that The Chosen used to cast the show.
Yeah.
And so when the breakdowns are like all of the, the roles that come out, she saw the role of Mary Magdalene, and Taylor thought of me. She was like, hey, would you be interested in this? Like, this is a really awesome project that they're coming out with. And I think you'd be great, like for the role of Mary Magdalene. Like, do you want to read for it? I can send it to your agent. And that way they can kind of like, give it to you. And so I was like, yeah, sure. So she sent it to me. I read for Mary Magdalene first. And I remember just like seeing it and just like loving the script and just really feeling like, wow, this is so well written. I've never read for a character like this, especially like faith-based too. And it was really awesome. And then I sent in the audition, and Taylor didn't even tell like the casting director that she knew me, because she didn't want, it to look, any kind of like weird. So, but Beverly Holloway, she saw my tape, and she liked it, and she sent it to Dallas. Dallas loved it. He just didn't quite see me for Mary Magdalene. Like he was like, I like her. I really do. I just feel like she could probably maybe play Eden. And so then I had to audition for that as well. And yeah, I mean, I ended up booking Eden, which is amazing. And here I am. It's crazy. Every time I tell it, I'm like, wow, my mind is still blowing. Because like I would have never known about the show had I not met Taylor, had she not been filming a faith-based show, had I not been in Atlanta, like.
Right.
And then she goes back to the office that's casting it. So
yeah. And then she ends up working for it. Like, it's just, God was in control. It's like I was meant to play this role. No one else was meant to play it, even though they saw actors all up and down, California and I'm sure Texas and other states. But like, it still feels surreal that like little me, like I booked it.
Well, you play it brilliantly.
Oh yeah.
Thank you.
And what's interesting, you talked about like the quality sometimes of faith-based stuff is not quite to the quality that you would hope it would be.
Right.
But like this just blows it out of the water as far as how well it's written and how personal it is.
Yeah.
Like they've made it very personal.
Absolutely.
And it's just like at another level, like for faith-based stuff for sure.
Is that why you think it struck such a chord with people?
Yeah.
Is that?
Yes. I was going to say that's why so many people have fallen in love with it, because it shows the human aspects of it, and it allows us as creators, as artists, as actors to like make these characters come to life. And so people that have grown up in the faith, reading their Bibles, reading these same stories that they've heard over and over again, now have like this visual, which is so cool. And I think it's like one of the craziest things. Like not me personally, but I know some of the other castmates, they have gotten messages saying like, when I read in my Bible and I'm reading, either a story about Mary Magdalene or anything about Matthew, or even in the chapter Matthew, like they picture the actors.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine like for Jonathan Rumi, who plays Jesus, like they picture his face and he's just like, oh my goodness, that is
there's no pressure there.
No pressure.
Yeah, it's a lot to take in, but I mean, that's what it's done. It's just kind of helped people, I think, dig deeper into their faith and deeper in their Bibles, because they're like, wait a minute. Even my husband, who he was raised Catholic, and he was just like, going to church and Catholic school, like I've never quite understood these stories really, and it made him, once he saw it, he's like, wait, I don't remember that happening. Like that's kind of cool. And even though the writers, like they take what's already in the Bible and kind of just make this awesome like world of, well, this could have happened, so then it makes you go back and read that part. So it's really cool.
Well, that's what I like at the beginning of the show. It does say this is based on the Bible. We've taken some dramatic license, but we want you to read it for yourself. So I like
the part I think that I love that's kind of, I think, brought it to life is the humor. Like, there's so much funny in it. Honestly, really Matthew's hilarious. But there's so much humor. And I mean, that there's humor in life, and so it's not just that it just brought all the sadness or any, the hard stuff, but I mean, it's funny too.
Well, and God made humor, so you would think Jesus was probably pretty humorous.
Yes.
And I love those little moments where he like says little things to them. And he probably did, because that's how people talk to each other.
That is,
exactly.
It's not like an English actor reciting poetry or something.
Right. It's not just like the womp 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 womp. I guess that's all I can kind of put into.
Exactly.
So I love that. So a lot of the show is filmed in Texas, like in Weatherford, which is just an hour away from us.
Real close.
So we want to know what's your favorite thing about Texas?
Oof.
Oh, my favorite thing about Texas. Well,
it's the heat,
the first thing, the heat is great, right? Well, I'm used to the heat too, because South Florida is really hot too.
Yeah, it's true.
Well, and Atlanta is nasty too.
Atlanta gets pretty hot as well during the summer. No one really calls it Hotlanta, I guess, but I do.
I did when I moved here.
Yeah. So I do love like the food. And I do love the accent too. And I love country music. So, and I know like, a lot of like Texans, they love their country music, and I do too. So, and just the people, I felt so welcomed. Everybody was really, really supportive of us and the show, and just in general, it was really, really
Okay, so you did secure the role of Eden, and tell us like how you prepared for her role. Like, how do you prepare to play her?
So I took it as how I would prepare for anything that I would audition for, and that just kind of started with trying to connect with this woman. So for me, all I can do is bring out my honest truth, the parts of me that can make her come to life, how I would really genuinely react to the situation, to what's going on, to try to bring in some real life moments that maybe I have gone through that I can draw from, and then just figuring out like, okay, well, we know a lot about Simon Peter, right? We know there's a lot written about him. There's not much written about Eden.
Right.
When I say like characteristics wise, of like, we can kind of see how Simon Peter was stubborn. We can see that he was, a little bit more, more bold, and also just like protective of Jesus as well. So it's like, well, what kind of woman would marry this man? And like, what would she need to have to like build him up too, and also be his rock? Like, what kind of wife would she need to be? And so that's how I started like creating her based off of like me. So
that's cool.
So you and Shair Isaac, did I say his first name right?
Shahar.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, y'all are amazing together.
Thank you.
especially in season 1, there's some scenes where I just tear up because it's just a beautiful portrait of marriage in general.
Yeah.
And it's like, so how did y'all generate that kind of chemistry, and just how do y'all work so well together?
How did it happen? I mean, it was a mix of like beautiful casting because they did such a good job with casting.
Yeah.
The writing does a lot of the work for
Yeah,
us,
that's
to be
true.
honest. And then the work that we do and bring in, like, did it, and also like that little magic that happens on set, and just initially just meeting Shahar too. He was just so kind and so welcoming and so respectful and just like communicative, and wanted to know, like, you know, just let me know if this works, or if that doesn't, like, just,
Yeah.
you know, let's talk it out. And like, he wanted to get to know me as well, rather than just like, oh, hey, nice to meet you. Okay, great. Now we have the scene. It was more like, you know,
Okay.
we had some time to like
Right.
talk about like, well, where are you from? And, you know, kind of
Right.
set that up so that you're not feeling like it's a complete stranger. So you have something to like kind of connect with. And all you need is a little bit to then, you know, as an actor, you can then like make that bigger. And then, you know, I would a lot of times like have to plug my own like husband in there, you know,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
while acting with him, while still being in the moment. And it's just one of those things that happens for me. Like, I had to pray a lot. Like, I didn't know what I was doing. I'm like, this is the biggest role I've booked. This is a lot of dialogue. Like, am I ready for this? I mean, I guess I am, because God has literally like pushed me in here. So
It's your time to shine.
yeah, and yeah, exactly. I'm like, I can't, you're not going to let me fail, right? Like, I don't know what I'm doing, so I'm just going to pray and give it to God, because I don't know what is going to happen. How am I here?
And most of the time, that's the best place to be, is like, I don't know what I'm doing or how I'm going to do it. And you have to rely on God.
Right.
So I think that's why he puts us in those situations.
Because then you give the glory in the right place.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly. I absolutely think that is why I am like here, and why I'm finding like my purpose, and also like this whole the story of like me becoming an actor with God, like with his hand in it. It's it's why I have to tell the story, and why he's kind of made it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so season 1, episode 4, you have this little bit of a standoff with Peter, and every wife and woman out there is like, you go
Eden. Yeah.
Simon, it's been a month since you have visited Ima.
This is really bad time.
What kind of man are you?
You're punching me. Yeah, where's the honor in that, huh?
Stop it! If Simon says it's a bad time, he has good reason it's a bad time.
Avram, Jeho, please, go be with your Ima or go outside. Please listen to me. Look, a few days ago, I looked you in the eyes and I lied.
What do you mean?
If I don't catch a ton of fish or get some help somehow, they'll arrest me.
Or kill you.
So that's why we can't take your Ima. It's just not possible.
No, she has nothing to do with this. I will not let you punish her for your sins.
Eden, you can't do this alone.
Can't tell me what I can or can't do. You have had your eyes closed around here, and God is with me, even if you aren't.
Sorry.
Where is your faith?
And faith isn't gonna get me more fish.
I am talking about long before tonight. You've been different. Before it was gambling and trying to do everything yourself. The popular Simon, fixing everything and charming everyone all by yourself. And fishing on holy days without even thinking about it, with no respect for our God.
We can break a commandment to save a life, our lives.
That is why you are stuck and you feel desperate, and now you're off to try to fix it yourself again. So go. I don't want you here tonight anyway.
I'm sorry.
I know you're sorry. I know. And I'm glad you're at least honest with me. But no more talking. Maybe God can get your attention now.
I know. I watched it again and again, and I was like, this girl. Yes, everything about her. So tell us, like,
Oh, and I'm totally crying with her too.
yeah, he's crying, but
Yeah.
I mean, but I'm like, like I'm a little proud, I'm like, yes, girl, go get that. Yes.
Right.
And so he is, you're kind of upset with him, and you're just missing the husband that you once had. And so that was like is that the most emotional scene you've had in The Chosen? I think it has. And so tell us about that. Tell us how do you do that?
Like, how did I do that? I did the best that I could as far as preparation goes, and that just includes all of the work, right? The acting.
Yeah.
And again, like, I remember being on set, and like, I knew my lines, I knew what I needed to feel, right? Because I was like drawing from like my audition. Okay, well, what did I do for my audition, right? Because my audition actually had that scene.
Yeah.
And I had to think about, this is gonna sound so sad, but like, my parents growing up would argue a lot.
Uh-huh.
And I just, I remember like my mom and like her strength and her vulnerability and like her presence. And I had to really draw from that, because at the time, like, I hadn't gone through that much emotion
Right.
with a spouse. Like, I wasn't married yet. Like, my husband and I were dating, but like, we didn't fight like that,
right. Not like that.
not like that. And so it was tough to like bring myself to that place of like how hurt my mom had been, and like, the things that happened in their marriage. And so I felt that I needed to like bring the situation justice for a lot of women that are married and have gone through some tough times with their spouse. And so even though I was saying the words that I was saying, I was thinking about the things that like my dad had like done to my mom.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And how hurt she was. And so that all came out. And so
real.
Yeah, I made it all real. And then when you're on set too, I remember praying, because like take after take, it's a lot to like keep.
So how many takes do you remember how many takes you had to do of that?
So we did a couple of takes, when you do the wide, and then you do 2 or 3 takes. We did Shahar's coverage. And then finally it was like another, I think it was like 2 to 3 takes on my coverage. And I remember it was the very last, we thought that we had it, right? We did the take. It felt good. It felt fine. But there was like a moment where it was my super close up. Oh, I'm so sorry. My alarm is going off.
It's okay.
And it was the second to last take, and we thought we had it. Dallas was really happy with it. I felt okay about it. But I was like, yeah, I feel like we've got it. It's fine. And then our director of photography there was like a moment where I could see in the corner of my eye, he had sort of a hiccup that he kind of wanted to push in a moment that I was having, but he didn't quite get it. And so he was like, Dallas, I feel like I kind of want one more for me, like just technically wise, like a lot of your performance was great, but just like, I'm going to just do something different. And I was like, you know what, Akis, his name is Akis. I'm like, I got you. I know what you need. And I got like, I know what I need to do as well. Like for me to feel like, yes, that was a awesome take and not just a good take. And I literally got on my knees and I prayed, and I was like whatever it is that I need, God, please just give it to me. Help me do Eden justice. Help me like get through the scene. And I felt it. And I just like, I got up and we did it. And I remember like, I finished my line, or that my whole thing, my last line, I finally finished it. And the whole room, it was a tiny little house, right? In Simon and Eden's home. And I just remember like everybody that was in there, like everyone was silent.
Wow.
And then all you heard, damn. And it kind of like broke us out of it, because it was such an intense.
It was such an intense.
But and that ended up being the one that made the.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah. Does that happen a lot on set? Do you see like where people stop and pray before a scene? Like, is that a common occurrence, or maybe not?
I don't for The Chosen.
Yeah.
They maybe to themselves.
Yeah.
Like I know I do sometimes.
Yeah.
I'll go off to, before a take
Right.
or something,
Mhm.
I'll go and I'll just
Yeah.
kind of to myself. I don't think I haven't seen anybody like
Yeah.
get on my knees like I did.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I need help.
Yeah.
And I did. There was a moment I was like, I need to do this. And
Yeah. Girl, you killed that
Oh,
scene.
you totally nailed it.
thank you.
Yeah.
You killed that scene.
So the cast, y'all seem like you're really a family. And especially I think part of that is because it's so grassroots, like you feel like you're doing your own thing.
Yeah.
So it's like this cool like team you have. So what do the other cast members mean to you? And just to have that family.
They're family. I mean, they
Yeah.
really are my brothers and my sisters. They're amazing. Like we have a huge group chat on WhatsApp and all of us are in there. And
Oh,
so
gosh.
That's so cool.
like not everybody chimes in all at once, but like you'll have these little conversations. Sometimes people will want like, prayers or positive vibes, send us like all, good stuff because I'm up for this role, or my aunt is struggling with her health. Like, can you guys say send her prayers and send her well wishes and stuff like that, like keep her in your thoughts. And so we update each other on a lot. Like we just empower each other too with other things in life that's going on. And I just love them so much.
Yeah. So Jeremiah 33:3 says, call to me and I will tell you great and unsearchable things which you do not know. And I always say that's God's telephone number, but you actually have Jesus' telephone number.
Yeah, you do.
I mean,
I
he's in your
do.
phone. Yeah.
Dude, we have selfies together too.
That's right.
Who has a selfie with Jesus?
Who
I
has a
mean,
selfie with Jesus?
it made me think when you were talking about that, it made me think what would have been like if the disciples would have had like texting, like they were in a text group.
Right.
And it made me think of in the show how when they interact, like, they have disagreements and we kind of read it in the Bible and we kind of read over it. But when y'all are really like embodying those characters, you realize like they were really talking sassy to each other, probably.
Yeah.
Especially
like,
a group of men. Like
this wasn't a warm fuzzy of
For sure.
John, I'm so sorry. It was like, man, you're a
It's
jerk.
real.
They were talking like normal people.
Nobody wants to hang out with Matthew.
Right.
right.
Oh, and I love that character, how they've made him. Oh, it's just so
I
cool.
know.
Yeah.
A lot
And
of
he
people
does
were
such a great job.
confused by that, and Dallas explains it so well. Like a lot of people are confused, like, oh, why is Matthew autistic, sort of?
Yeah.
Like, why is he
Yeah.
on the spectrum? And Dallas explains it way better than I ever could. But Matthew was very meticulous, and also too, like I know that Dallas has had a lot of interactions with people on the spectrum, and so he was able to really pick up when you dive deep into Matthew and see who he was. Like he had those tendencies to possibly be. So that was an awesome, bold choice, and I think it's great.
Yeah. He's so good. So how we've told you everything about how The Chosen has changed us, but how has it changed you?
My gosh, I'm not the same person. Like how they say one of the famous lines of The Chosen that's said by Mary Magdalene. She says, I was one way and now I'm completely different.
Yeah.
And the thing that happened in between was him.
Yeah.
It's an incredible line that like doesn't just happen once. I feel like yes, we become saved, right? And that really changes us spiritually, but like it's the continual like just renewal of that and diving the relationship and growing in that and growing your faith. And like ever since The Chosen, like yes, I've had ups and downs, and I've had moments where like I'm not praying as much, or like I'm not reading in my devotionals as much, but then I realize what that's like when I'm not in it, and how I feel like when I'm not like talking to God and I'm not spending time praying and just like really meditating on some things. And it's made me realize like how much I do need him to continue for me to continue doing what I'm doing and feeling fulfilled and continuing my career and what else I can be doing. Like I'm also dabbling in speaking now, which is absolutely insane. Like I'm not a speaker, but like I now, like God has literally opened that door for me that I didn't want. It just it came. I didn't pray for it. I didn't want it.
Uh-huh.
And I remember like telling God, like, why? I don't want to speak in front of people. Why am I
Because didn't you
speaking?
just talk to like 20,000 people? I think I saw
Yeah,
that.
I did. I said a couple of words and I tried my best to answer. It was like 4 questions in one, it felt like, but I did my best with like the time that I had in answering it. And I kind of black out in those moments because I was like, I am the only one talking right now in a room of 20,000 people and they are listening to only me. Okay.
Yeah, and you have to be yourself.
Yeah.
You're not
I was
acting.
so nervous. Yeah. And it's yourself. It's so much harder to
It is so much
be
harder.
yourself than it is to like act in front of everybody
Right.
watching you have this emotional breakdown, with
Okay, I have a little off the cuff question. When they were auditioning for people for The Chosen, were they looking at only believers, or was that like
No.
there's any?
Yeah, Dallas did not make that like a thing. He just wanted to find the best person for the role.
Yeah.
And that included everybody from like, also it did, we're all from different countries too. Like,
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
we're not all of Middle Eastern descent.
Uh-huh.
And that included just like, it wasn't a question of like, oh, do you
Right.
believe? Do you know
Right,
God?
yeah.
It was just
Yeah.
like, here's the script, do
Yeah.
your best, and we'd love to see it. And if you're if you were the right person for the role. And I feel like God had his hand in all of that too, because
Yeah.
believe it or not, I feel like on set, there's no denying that there's something special.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's
yeah.
true.
Okay, speaking of something special,
Yeah.
you're a newlywed, right? Like you were married
I
last
am.
May.
Yes,
So you're still within the first year, so that's pretty
Yeah.
awesome.
I
So
know. Yes.
we have to say a happy early
Oh,
anniversary.
happy early anniversary.
Thank you.
So how did you meet your husband?
I met Steven. I was bartending at a restaurant in Atlanta while I was also acting, and he had just moved down from New York, and he moved down to take a job with coaching for the academy for Atlanta United. So Atlanta United is our MLS team here in Atlanta, and then they have like the academy where from age 12 to 17.
Oh.
And they're basically like molding and just making these incredible little soccer players, and they're developing them to either become pro or maybe go to college. Anyway, so when he came into Rays on the River, it's where I was working at the time. I was bartending, and I happened to pick up that shift, and I normally don't work Fridays, and so it was just interesting, like just kind of chatter back and forth. He was by himself, and I just was doing my job and like talking to him, and he was asking me stuff about why I'm here in Atlanta. And then I asked him about, what he does, and he tried to explain all of that I just explained. And I was just like lost, because I was like, I don't know anything about soccer. And he thought it was so funny that like a Brazilian knows very little about soccer.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just so funny. But he ended up leaving his number, but I didn't do anything with it because I was dating somebody at the time. Plot twist, right? And then the guy that I was seeing was also working there, and like it was just so awkward that like, because he was working also in another area in the bar, and just like it was just so funny. So I actually didn't see Steven for like almost a year, because I had also left the restaurant. I went to a different one, but then I got together with some of my old friends from that restaurant, and we were having brunch together, and one of them was going to an Atlanta United game with her boyfriend. And I was like, oh, those sound like so much fun. It kind of sounds familiar. I was like, are the tickets expensive? I'm like, can we come? Like, oh, actually, like we got free tickets from Steve. She's like, Lara, do you remember Steve, that guy that would come in? He would only come in Fridays. I'm like, yeah, I think I remember him. And I was like, yeah, how could I forget? Like, I could tell that there was something, something there, but I didn't know until like a year later that like, oh, that was special. That was another God, like, little, thing. So yeah, the spark. And and so us just being silly girls, we were like, oh my gosh, let's find him on Instagram. So So we looked him up and he was on private. So we were like, what? Oh no, we all so then we all followed him. Like all 5 or 6 of us, we just started following him at the same time. So then when he went that Friday to the restaurant. It was like his little spot after work at the end of the week. And my friend who was still working there, she was like, oh my gosh. She's like, Steve, we're so sorry. We stalked you. We all started following you at the same time. Ha ha ha. Like we were just joking around. We're trying to like just find out your profile page. And so he was like, I was wondering why like all of these random girls started following me at the same time. He was like, wow, like what is this? So then he actually pulled up my profile and he showed it to my friend. He was like, is she single? Like, is she single now? Like, where has she been kind of thing? And she's like, oh, she is single now. And so he messaged me and it was sweet. And then made our, date. And then that
yeah. I don't know if things are more complicated now with all of that or like we've been married.
It almost made it easier for them.
We'll be 30 years this year married.
Yeah.
And thank you. Can you imagine if we had social media back then? Oh,
I don't know. Well, we were very similar. She was dating, you were actually engaged to my roommate. And then they broke up. We were in college. And then they broke up. And then a year later, I needed her to play softball on a co-ed team.
Yeah.
So that's kinda how we got back together. Yeah. So it was pretty much a year later.
Yeah.
So.
That's so cool. That's kind of like actually, I didn't see him for a whole like year.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
And then we got married on that softball field at home playing.
Oh, that's so sweet. Oh, I love softball. I played in high school and then I did play 2 years in a co-ed league here in Atlanta.
Oh, did you?
Cool.
That's so cool. What position did you play in high school?
I would always switch between second and shortstop. So I like was always in.
So you're pretty good then.
Yeah. That's so fun. Yeah. We still try to play a little bit.
Yeah.
We're a little older than we used to be. He's still really fast and good.
That's great.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so fun. All right. So what's next for you? Like what's on your plate right now? And tell me when season 3 comes out.
Oh my gosh. So right now what's on my plate is I'm going to be flying to San Diego next week to do a talk for kids grade what is it? I think their age is 12 to 18. So junior high to high school. So I'm doing that. And then I'll be doing another like event type appearance in California again as well for The Chosen and with some of the castmates, and that'll be fun. And then we are indeed still waiting for official dates for season 2. They've had us waiting on like dangling they've had us waiting. Yeah, we're anxious, we're excited. We're just now starting to get our scripts. So
okay.
That's exciting. We're reading that.
Yay.
And we're just waiting for the logistics side of everything to figure out all of the business paperwork stuff.
Cool. Yeah.
And then we'll have some official dates, but I'm thinking it's still scheduled for the end of April.
Okay.
Maybe beginning of May.
Okay, that's pretty soon then.
Yeah.
Will you be back in Texas, or are they filming in Texas again?
So most of it will be Texas.
Yeah.
And but I do know that they filmed some stuff in Utah in season 2. I don't know if they will. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. But I do know for the majority of it, it seems like it will be Texas.
So we can come say hi, and then she can sub on our co-ed softball team.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, on my day off.
It's only an hour away, so
we'll go get her.
Yeah, we'll give you a ride.
Yeah, that'll be so fun.
Oh gosh,
Lara, we just thank you so much for taking time with us today. We love hearing all the stories and all of your stories, and you're just delightful with your naturally curly hair, and you're so pretty.
Thank you. It took a while to let them all grow out again.
Yes,
straightened the heck out of it growing up, and then
of course, everybody did. I'm a hairdresser by trade, so I appreciate.
I used to relax it all the time. Yeah.
Oh, did you? No, it's beautiful.
So bad.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Beautiful, and we just thank you for taking time with us today. We hope you have a wonderful rest of the day.
And we'll be praying for your San Diego trip. We know you're nervous, so we'll be praying for you next week.
I really am. It's only my second time talking by myself about telling my story essentially and everything. So it is scary, but gotta do it.
You did a great job of being yourself today.
Thank you. Practicing over here, right?
There you go.
That's right. It was
Thank
really
you.
great to talk to you.
You too.
Have
Hey.
a
to
wonderful
meet you
day
both.
in hot Atlanta.
Yeah. Oh, it's windy and cold now. But
That's
yeah.
right.
Take
Hopefully
care.
the warm is coming. You too.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
We'll see you.
Eek! I told you.
That was so good.
It was so good.
She's so delightful.
She is. She's
Oh my
precious.
goodness.
And totally,
Yeah.
I'm going to hold her too, playing softball with us. Maybe she will. She probably doesn't have a lot of time.
She probably doesn't have a lot of time.
Do you think they'd miss her if we just like kidnapped her for a night?
If she didn't have any scenes, maybe they would miss her for a half a day or an evening.
Maybe not. We'll feed her too. She likes the food.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
We can go to Tex-Mex. Fresco's in Burleson here is pretty good.
That's right.
So
have
we'll
to
hit her
show
up and see.
Yeah, we'll just see. She was pretty amazing. I loved hearing about that scene that she was that she filmed in season 1, episode 4 with Peter, where she just laid it all out there. I mean, it was so good.
Yeah, that relationship between those two gets me every time.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just like we were talking with her, it's just like a real portrait of a marriage.
Yeah.
Like he has his weaknesses, she has hers,
Yeah.
and then they figure it out.
Yeah.
And they love each other enough to figure it out.
Oh, kind of like us.
I know. Oh,
So sweet.
Yeah,
Yeah. So we love this interview. We hope you did too. And Hardy Party 5 and up. Over and out.
We'll see you next time.